Greetings YouTube and welcome to Bubble Hearthing. I'm Bubble and today I'm hoping that the encoding is not overloaded right now. Looks we're good. Okay, we're going to be talking about the green cards for Theros Beyond Death, the set that is kind of just coming out already. I know I'm a little late to the party for a review, but we're just going to go through the line, see how things are going. We're going to do things from a limited and a constructed point of view. For constructed, it's going to be mainly standard. For limited, say everything how you will. I don't really play too much limited, although I'm going to go to a pre-release in like a few hours, so that'll be a lot of fun. If you want to see how I do, feel free to join my Discord. I should have links to my channel downstairs in the description, and the Discord. I'll post videos, not videos, but I'll post pictures of both what I draw and what I end up making for the deck for pre-release, so feel free to check that out while my chair phases out of existence. And without further ado, the green cards. So, I'll have that up there as the first card, but I just want to make a note that green got a whole lot of stuff recently. Oh my goodness, green has been, I don't think it's ever been more powerful than it is just now. They had to ban Oko, they had to get rid of Veil of Summer, there was some other card they had to ban as well. Oh, Field of the Dead is what it is. But green is a very, very strong color right now, so I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of toned it back a little bit for Theros Beyond Death, but we'll see. If they just go ahead and go balls to the wall, have some more green, I mean, Nissa's still out there, and you know, she's not too bad, so we'll see how we do. Without further ado, we have one of my favorite creature types, a spider. Just in general, I like spiders. A 4-mana, 3/5 spider with reach. It is a legendary enchantment, so that's you know, two things going for you. Legendary enchantment, I guess. Whenever an opponent casts an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/2 green spider token with reach. So this is the counter to Murmuring Mystic that no one ever really wanted. No one really needed. But let's see here. So the question is, how can you really ignore a 3/5? Probably. I mean, it's not really too bad. In constructed, yeah, you can totally ignore a 3/5. The fact that it has reach is a little annoying, but the only things that really make do around that, obviously this gives Azorius Flyers run for the money, and it's like, oh my god, almost like a hard counter there, aside from the fact that the only instant or sorceries they really run is Winged Words and Rally of Wings, the one that buffs everything and then untaps them, which would probably end up killing this thing anyway. So not a huge effect there, but Cavalier of Gales also gets stopped. This doesn't have Death Touch though, so you play Cavalier of Gales, you do that with Cavalier of Thorns, not Thorns, Cavalier of Flames. Neither of those instant or sorceries, so you don't really worry about that too much. Even, sorry. My goodness, even my throat is not an instant or sorcery, so I'm not doing a whole lot, sorry. Even Fire's Invention doesn't trigger this thing at all, so not really much going on there. You attack, and you block, and you still die? Like, I don't really... God, I like spiders so much, and I like the design of this card. In Limited, this is pretty good, because at least if your opponent like uses a kill spell on it, it still makes a 1/2 spider with reach, which isn't that great, but at least something behind. I'm gonna just try to keep the chair turned that way, because for some reason, it doesn't want to look correct. But otherwise, oh god. I like the design and everything else, but as far as playability, not feeling it. Okay, moving on. Chainweb Arachneer. It's a 1-mana 1/2. 1/2 spider with reach. Sounds familiar. When Chainweb Arachneer enters the battlefield, it deals damage equal to its power to target creature with flying and opponent controls. And it has an escape for 5 and 4. There's a pretty expensive escape thing. It escapes with 3 +1/+1 counters on it. So when it escapes, you pay 5 mana and you get a 4/5. Which is not bad. 5 mana for a 4/5 with reach that can fight a, actually it doesn't even fight, it just shoots a flyer. That's not bad. That's pretty good, actually. It's almost like an improved version of Crawl Harpooner. And this is specifically just a limited card. In Standard, you're not going to see this seeing any play. Crawl Harpooner just outclasses this, even though it can just die. It's still a 2-mana 3/2, more aggressive, still has reach, kill something as soon as it comes out, don't have to worry about escaping it later on. Yeah. Much better that way. The only cases could ever see play is against Azorius Flyers, because Azorius Flyers has a lot of X1s. But even then, there are better options than running this guy. And you're playing green, there are better options than green, just specifically. Green hates flying. Are you kidding? Plummet? Like, that's super, super narrow. And they still have it, so something to consider. Limited, definitely pretty good there. The fact that you pay whatever you do, but it can shoot a flyer out of the air is pretty nice. Worth noting that it only hits flyers, so if your opponent doesn't have any flyers, it's just a 5-mana 4/5, which is still pretty good, that you can recur it over and over again. Solid limited card. Alright, next up we have a 2-mana 2/3 Destiny Spinner. Creatures and enchantment spells you control can't be countered. Well, that's a pain in the ass, isn't it? For 2 mana? That sounds like something that Control's gonna have a hard time dealing with. And the other effect is for 4 mana, target land you control becomes an XX elemental creature with trample and haste until end of turn, where X is the number of enchantments you control. It's still a land though, so at the very least, it's gonna be a 1/1, which is bad. It's not indestructible at all. Doesn't give you any more mana like Nissa does, so that hurts a lot. I don't think you're gonna be using the second ability too often. Now, in limited, a 2 mana 2/3 is something you don't pass up. Just straight up there, great on rate, great value. The fact that it protects your other things from whatever counters your opponent might be playing in limited is usually not too many, but still is very significant. In standard, you're not really worried about the 2 mana 2/3 part of it so much, because it doesn't really seem like much of an aggressive card. I guess this could be seen as something played against specifically Simic Flash. Counterspell tribal kind of decks. There's that one, there's the Dimir one, the Dimir Mill counterspell thing. And if you get this down early, which is like a turn before they can actually stop you, then I guess they could quench it if they go first, but otherwise this thing's gonna hit the board. Then you shut down most of their deck, which is significant there. Let's see, beyond that though, beyond those 2 cases where it counters a deck, this might see some play in sideboards in standard. But I don't think this is a main deck card, because I don't think counters are really all that prevalent, because Teferi 3 still exists, therefore counterspells kind of tone down quite a bit. I could see you putting this in, let's see, creatures and, yeah, so, how does that work though? It can still counter the ability of a creature though. So you could still use Whirlwind Denial, or Whirlwind Dismissal, whatever it is, against a Krasis and still deny the ability, they just can't counter the actual creature coming down. So yeah, this is only going to be against a couple decks, but when it hits the board against those decks, they might just scoop just immediately, or they'll have to unsummon it first and then try to go forward, and then when you play it again, they'll try to counter it. It's going to be a huge pain in the ass for them. But yeah, like I said, limited, solid card. Don't count on the second ability doing too much, but the first one, just the fact that it's a 2 mana 2/3 is enough. It's an enchantment creature also, so that can work with bestow, not really bestow, sorry, constellation, and other things that work with, you know, enchantments and such. It's good. All right, we have a Dryad of the Elysian Grove. We're gonna go with that. A 3 mana 2/4, an enchantment creature there as well. You may play an additional land on each of your turns, and lands you control are every basic land type in addition to their other types. So this is Chromatic Lantern, but just for green, basically. So Chromatic Green, Chromatic Black used to be a thing you could play back when Lantern was still in standard. Is it still in standard? I don't think so. If it is, people don't play it anymore. But we could try Chromatic Green. The reason they did Chromatic Black was because you have Mastermind's Acquisition, which would get you cards at the sideboard, which would be outside of the black colors. You fetch like a Niv-Mizzet or something crazy. So, or a Banefire. So that's why you had that. So for green, I don't really know if it's really worth it to do that. Obviously, if you're going to try to do that, you're not playing any kind of devotion heavy deck because you're playing multiple colors, which is going to be really tough to get, you know, that to work out. And as far as an effect like that for the color fixing, you usually want to do that in at least a 3-color deck, ideally 4. Obviously 5 is like a must-have in 5 because you just kind of go with it and say, hey, guess what, it worked out. And you open this card and you don't have to worry about anything else. Let's see, this is also lands, not just basic lands, all lands you control, so that's good. The fact that you get to play an additional land each turn is a ramp that largely isn't necessary. How many people are playing the little 1 mana 0/3 that lets you play another land? Oh, jeez, I can't remember his name now. Wow, I'm surprised I can't remember. Arboreal Grazer, there we go. That doesn't see any play at all, really. It used to, back when Field of the Dead was a big thing, and granted, that was a huge thing. But now that that's gone, Grazer isn't played. Instead, you just play Mana Dorks. Now, this is somewhat of an alternative to playing, like, you know, instead of playing your Paradise Druid and your other, you know, Incubation Druid or whatever, the Elemental one also, you can play this thing and just drop a land. But it also takes cards out of your hand, which means you run out of resources, and it comes down on turn 3. So I think this is only going to see play if you're running a 3 or 4 color deck, 3 or above. I mean, 5 colors, sure. Beyond that, though, I don't think the mana ramping ability is all that significant. I don't think that the color fixing is great for anything less than 3 colors. And as just a 3 mana 2/4 creature for limited, sure, it's fine. It's not great, but if you're playing a slower deck, you can get away with it. For standard, that's not really going to be too relevant. But it's not too bad against burn decks, against aggro decks. Alright, moving onwards. Look at this little buddy. Oh, it looks adorable. I just want to take him home, and it's like some kind of weird Bat Lemur combination. Alright, it is a 2 mana Gift of Strength. Target creature gets +3/+3 and gains reach until end of turn. So you're playing one more for a Giant Growth, which is just 1 mana instant +3/+3, but you're getting reach. The question here is, not the question here, but the thing worth noting is that reach is a defensive mechanic. You're not gonna, it's not really gonna matter if you get reach when you're attacking. So specifically, if you're trying to get this for the reach, you're holding your creatures back, and you're gonna play it during your opponent's turn. That doesn't necessarily sound too great. I would rather, like, Giant Growth is great because you could play it, you could swing, your opponent blocks, Giant Growth, I win the trade here. Like, you know, like, your creature dies now, I'm still good. Whereas this thing, you have to hold on to it, so your opponent has to attack into you with a flyer, ideally, knowing you have 2 mana up to potentially have this card. I feel like it's very, very easily forecasted, very easy to tell if they have it, and it's completely dead during your own turn, as far as the reach is concerned. And paying 1 extra mana for ability that already exists, not in standard, but already existed, feels really bad, comparatively speaking. So in limited, sure, you can play it, and it's basically your green removal, which if you're playing mono green, then sure, you're gonna run this anyway. But in standard, nope, get out of here. Get out of here, we got better options. Alright, for 3 mana, you have Hydra's Growth. It is an enchantment aura, goes on a creature, any creature apparently. When it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on enchanted creature. So 3 mana +1/+1, feels really bad. Okay, at the beginning of your upkeep, double the number of +1/+1 counters on enchanted creature. Feels better. Okay, so this puts a huge bullseye on whatever creature you're putting it on, and notably, obviously not unlimited, if you put it on something like a Crisis, or an Incubation Druid, or a Growth Chamber Guardian, something that already would have a counter on it. Well, I guess in the case of the last two, it would actually trigger their abilities. It would trigger Growth Chamber Guardian to search a Growth Chamber, and it would make the other one search for more, so there's added benefit there. But, added utility. What if you just put it on something like a Crisis, where the counters just exist to have it be a stronger creature? If it already has some things to work off of and double even greater, instead of just going from a 1, 2, 4, 8, it goes from, like, say it comes out of 3, okay, so then you add 1, it goes 4, 8, 16. Now you're talking, plus it already has trample. So aside from that case, it seems completely horrible. For 3 mana, +1/+1 is bad. It's not really going to save you from too much removal. It doesn't have flash at all, so you can't use it in response to just edge out something. And odds are, in limited, you're going to hold a creature back to get it to reach like a critical mass before you swing out. Otherwise, you put it there, you swing, unless your opponent has something that has to die, and they're forced to trade with it. So you swing in, and they block with their 1 critical creature. It's like, okay, cool. Got it off the board. Then it's a 3 mana 2-for-1 kill spell, which is still really bad. So do this if you're playing a slower deck. Again, like if you're playing with like this guy or some other hardier things that have like a really big ass, like, you know, high toughness, then you can make that work, and you could probably reliably keep the creature around. Just keep in mind, if your opponent has a kill spell and you're waiting that long, they're probably going to find it if they haven't used it already. So maybe use this after your opponent already kills something, or just hope for the best. Alright, 3 mana 3/3. Alright, reasonable. Hyrax Tower Scout. When it enters the battlefield, untap target creature. Not exciting at all. In limited, it's just a mediocre, like, you know, maybe like a 2.5 out of 5, a 3 out of 5. Just nothing flashy there, but untapping means you can be a little more aggressive for 1 attack phase, and then after that, you got to dial it back to whatever you're doing. If it was an enchantment creature, it could maybe see some more utility, but otherwise, it's just a 3 mana 3/3. I guess, is there any value to untapping your opponent's creature? No. No. And is there any significant, are there any significant tap abilities in limited where you want to untap and then retap it again for an effect? Probably not. So, that being said, you can run it if you just want a 3 mana 3/3. Don't count on the tap or tap thing really being significant. In standard, 0 play. Alright, Ilsean Caryatid. A 2 mana 1/1. I really hope you're good. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. If you control a creature with power 4 or greater, add 2 mana of any one color instead. So it's worth noting that it's the same color, so you can't add, you know, green and red for your Gruul deck. But you can add double green or double red. Doesn't have to be this. Doesn't have to be green exactly. So that's pretty nice. As far as mana dorks go, this is not very good. I think that the ones we have now are really good. I mean, the reason Paradise Root is so good isn't because of the 2/1 necessarily, but it's because it has hexproof. Playing a 2 mana 1/1 is very much dangerous. Even, like, there were a few cases where Paradise Druid mattered because you could trade with your opponent's card, right? Whereas this thing doesn't even really trade very well. It just kind of chump blocks, and you don't really want to chump block with a mana dork. So that hurts a lot. In limited, you can do this. I would only run this card in limited if you're trying to make a 3-color deck work. If you weren't trying to do at least 3 colors, I would not touch this card at all. I think for what it does, it's just too weak. There are a lot of cards that incidentally happen to do 1 damage to this or that or the other thing. They can pick off X1s very easily, and this is going to be a fine target for it. And they're like, well, I paid 2 mana to do not really do too much. That feels pretty bad. In Standard, again, there were better options for creating mana through creatures for ramping, so wouldn't really worry about that. Especially because you have to have a creature power 4 greater on the board already. So I guess the ideal thing is you play this. Turn 3, you have 4 mana. You use that to make something with power 4 or greater, or to summon something with power 4 or greater. And then the next turn, you can actually use the ability. So you drop it turn 2. Turn 3, it just makes a creature. Turn 4, finally you get more benefit off of it. No, I don't like that. Too slow. Alright, 4 mana, Inspire Awe. It's an instant, and we get a pretty good view of Nissa right there. I don't know, I think she looks pretty good. Anyway, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn, except combat damage that would be dealt by enchanted creatures and enchantment creatures. And you scry 2. That's a very, very strange fog effect. Root Snare kind of thing, you know. Damage prevention ability. This is going to see 0 playing as Standard, by the way, because... What's his name? Oh my goodness. Because the Questing Beast exists, and he stops all that damage prevention. Not that it really... Not that Questing Beast is absolutely everywhere, but it's just not really a great effect. When it was good when it cost 4. When it costs 2, sorry. Root Snare costs 2, therefore, you can just play it. Holding up 4 mana at the end of the turn is significant. And the fact that, you know, it just doesn't affect a few creatures is also significant. So, which is why you're not going to play it, though. Now, let's see, though. In Limited, it's not really that great. I think the odds that you can get better trades, you can try to set something up to have a good trade, but this thing costing 4 mana is what really pushes over the edge. I can understand Selective Root Snare at 3 mana, sure. You could do that, and you block with your enchantment creature against their regular thing, and you play this, and haha, my thing doesn't die, and yours does, but then it affects theirs as well, so, you know, it's not really all that great. The symmetrical effect here is not very great. And Scry 2 doesn't really have a whole lot of utility. It's good. I mean, you could just use this, throw it in there to try to filter a few cards out. I could see you having no cards in your hand and just like playing this like, alright, well, I Scry 2. Whatever. I might save myself like 3 points of damage, I'm just going to Scry 2 with it. Otherwise, no, get out of here. It's like the same kind of situation where you Thought Erasure when your opponent has an empty hand, just to surveil 1. But that only costs 2 mana. And it's much more of a useful card. This thing, don't run it. Just don't do it. Okay. We have a 6 mana Klothys' Design. It's a sorcery. Creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is your devotion to green. Interesting that Klothys is a 2-color god, and is only doing devotion to green, but that's the design team there. The God of Destiny grants your followers a vision deeper than sight. Oh, nice. I guess that's Calyx right there? Looks like Calyx, and it also looks like some other person in the background. Looks like, what's her name that prevents the things being encountered? So at least we get to see a few characters here. As far as the actual card's concerned, though, if Standard, get out of here, no, useless, doesn't give Trample. If it gave Trample, maybe, but even then we have Endrace Forerunners. If we want to do something like that, we have Ilharg if we want to go crazy. We already have Cavalier of Flame, and I know it's not green, but we have Cavalier of Flames as well as Kenrith to give things Trample. So the fact that it doesn't give Trample is very significant. For 6 mana, oh god, it's expensive. In Limited, if you don't win the turn you play this, then you're going to feel pretty bad. You have to present lethal when you do it, and by turn 6, you should already know if you're ahead or not. The fact that it buffs toughness is relevant, because at least you probably keep your creatures alive, but by the time you hit 6 mana, if you don't have a board big enough to do that, this isn't really going to help you. You might get like some extra damage in there, and that's like, okay. And you have to have, it's weird, because it scales better with bigger things, so this is like the winningest more card in the world. Because you don't just play this because you have a few things you want to buff a little bit, because you only have a few things buffs it a little bit. If you have more things, buffs it a lot. So you're already winning. No, don't do it. Ooh, I love the artwork on this thing. Just, I don't know why. That's the bone head and the jaw and everything. Oh god, I think it's great. Okay. Anywho, a 3 mana 4/1 Loathsome Chimera. 3 mana 4/1. And then if you escape it for 5 and you exile 3 cards, it escapes with a +1 encounter on it. This is like not the pinnacle. I don't want to say the pinnacle, but this is going to be your limited staple green removal. What? But it's not a kill spell. Yeah, but how often can you ignore 4/1? Even further down the line of 5/2. That just keeps swinging at your face. Or you can keep it back as a big blocker, because guess what? You know, having something that deals 5 damage when your opponent attacks with it is pretty significant. So yeah, this is going to be your clock or just your removal spell basically in green, which doesn't really exist. So fine, this is a perfectly good card. I'd say maybe like 3 out of 5, 3.5 out of 5. I wouldn't put it at 4 because the lower toughness does kind of hurt you, but I would definitely run this. I would run pretty much as many of these things as I got, unless your opponent's really high in flyers, because that hurts a lot when they just go right over it. But yeah, this is a great card, even though it only has 1 toughness. The fact that it's going to come back with more and avoids all those little 1 damage things is great. In standard, no, it's just too bad, but in limited, hell yeah. In standard, you're just going to run Golgari if you want removal. So, but if you're running mono green, yeah, I love it. All right. Oh boy, this is a hell of a card. Mantle of the Wolf costs 4. It is an aura. You enchant any creature, probably your own creature though, just saying. The enchanted creature gets +4/+4 for 4 mana, and then when Mantle of the Wolf is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, create 2 2/2 green wolf creature tokens. This card is a bomb in limited. Even though it only activates 1 time, it's still insane. It creates a threat, which your opponent has to answer, even if it's just like on a 1/1. Guess what? The 1/1 is now a 4/4. That's fantastic. It's a 5/5, sorry. Even better, right? They have to acknowledge that. So you just take that, just start swinging, right? And then if your opponent kills it, you get 2 2/2s as a constellation prize. Like, there's nothing wrong with that at all. This is fantastic there. This could even see some play in standard, because it is significant there and it leaves a body behind. You can consider this like a, oh boy, like a slower Tithe Taker almost. Like, I compare the 2/2 wolf creature tokens to like an Afterlife effect. And Afterlife didn't really accomplish very much, but the fact that they're 2/2s and not 1/1s is significant. The fact that it also buffs your creature beforehand is significant. It's also worth noting that it's when the Mantle of the Wolf is put into the graveyard, not the creature that is attached to. So if your opponent exiles the creature, at least this thing still hits the graveyard, and you get the effect. Otherwise, you get hosed really badly. So it does have some protection. It edges out that little 2-for-1 thing that the auras have. So yeah, great card. Hell yeah. Definitely, like I said, 100% like 4 to 5, 5 out of 5 limited card. In standard, you might see someone playing 1 or 2 of these. I mean, it's not bad. I wouldn't play a whole playset because you only creatures in your deck, right? But yeah, definitely. Just a standard little, it's adorable. Look at that guy. Oh, he's so cute. And then he kills you. 1 mana, 1/1 Moss Viper. Just a 1/1 Death Touch. So like I said, the fact that there is a lot of 1 damage to creatures, which, granted, the cards that those are printed on are pretty bad cards, but the fact that it could hit this means it's a little less useful than it usually could be. But otherwise, it's fine. You could run 1 of these in your deck. Again, green removal, not as good as a Chimera, I'd say. I'd say having a 4/1 body or 5/2 body is better than a 1/1 Death Touch. But that being said, still, nice little card. You could run 1 of these, maybe 2, if you had some bigger payoff creatures that you just really want to keep alive, or if you had like, Calyx is bad, but if you had some kind of a Planeswalker that you wanted to keep going, or a god that you wanted to work towards. But I would really just do 1 of these. Standard, obviously 0 play, because we already have these kind of things, and they just don't really see anything. But I really like the artwork too. I just think whoever drew this snake was like, on point. Oh god, this card. You know how I was talking about green removal? It doesn't really exist. Did green really need this? For 1 mana. Alright, let's talk about what it is. Mystic Repeal. Costs 1 green. Not 1 and a green, just a single green. It's an instant speed. Put target enchantment on the bottom of his owner's library. Not even like it gives them the option to put it on the top or the bottom. It goes to the bottom. I believe this is similar to Condemn. It was a white mana when it was a white spell back then. And you put a creature in the bottom of opponent's library. I think that has to be an attacking creature. But anyway, just a vaguely similar effect. But wow. Green has a 1 mana answer to enchantments now. They can already kill them pretty well with like Return to Nature, and Naturalize I don't think is in standard, but Return to Nature is just better. But now you have an instant speed 1. If it costs 2 mana, I could see it. Okay, fine, it costs 2 mana. The fact that it costs 1 is just insane. Did they not learn anything from Veil of Summer? Like, being what it is. Sure, Veil of Summer is like a guaranteed 1-for-1, or 2-for-1, whatever. Because you negate their card and you draw a card, so it's like 2-for-1. But damn, wow, this is fantastic. The question here... Okay, so this might see play in limited because of enchantment creatures. Otherwise, probably not too much. It's a great answer to any gods, though, your opponent has. And your opponents are probably going to have a god at some point. So yeah, throw it in there. 100%. Maybe sat it out game 2 if you don't see too many things. But in standard, yeah, this is a solid sideboard card, if not a main board card, if enchantments go too far. Like, this is... Way to go, Green. You did it again. Alright, 5 mana Nessian Boar, and here's the consolation prize. It is a 10-6, which is very, very heavily skewed towards the offense, right? All creatures able to block Nessian Boar do so. Okay. That's not bad. I guess you get your choice of creatures. You probably just wipe your opponent's board when you attack with it. If they can block with it. Of course, if they all swing out and they're tapped, then you just get in. But if you get in for 10, significant. Okay. Whenever it becomes blocked by a creature, that creature's controller draws a card. So that's where you're like, so you're trying to get ahead on board. You're paying 5 mana for a thing that's probably going to die pretty soon. 5 mana, almost like a board wipe. But then your opponent draws a bunch of cards. Notably, this thing plus Embercleave is essentially win the game, right? Essentially clear your opponent's board, they draw some cards, but you have a giant 11-7 with Double Strike and Trample, and it's just like, what are you gonna do? I don't know. And they shouldn't be able to reassemble a board as quickly. Sure, they draw a card for each creature that died, basically, but I think largely the fact that you're not gonna have as much mana, hopefully, if you play this on a curve, means they can't play all the creatures again. And they're also not going to draw all creatures. They're going to draw some lands, some spells, some instant sorceries. So, it's a very, very, like, fringy card. Aside from just a big blowout that way, I don't think this card's that good. I mean, you could definitely try main decking this in Limited and just seeing how it goes. But when this thing dies very, very quickly, you're going to feel pretty bad putting 5 mana into a thing that didn't really do a whole lot. That showed so much promise and left you with so little. And your opponent might be fine with, like, okay, I'm going to chump block with this thing, whatever. I mean, chump block, whatever. You can block with these things. They can address their attackers in a sense that they only block with things they don't want to block with. Or they can tap their creatures preemptively in a manner such that they only block with things they want to. And they attack with the ones they want to keep alive. So unless you have this alongside another threat, it's not that significant. And then if they're digging towards an answer, you're just going to help them dig towards that answer. In Standard, this could see some play just because of the Embercleave and because maybe you sneak attack this out with Perforos and you do. But otherwise... yeah, I'm hesitant to say it's going to see any play in Standard. And before I just explode, right? I mean, you could fling it out there, but you could already fling a Beanstalk Giant, which could be even bigger. So, yeah. Yeah, that's about all I have to say about that, though. Limited, give it a shot, but don't put all your bets on this card. Standard, if it goes crazy, it's going to be with Embercleave. Otherwise, it's not going to see much play. 2 mana, 2/2, and Nessian Hornbeetle. Alright, I like the thing on it. I like the little blue stuff on it. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control another creature with power 4 or greater, put a +1/+1 counter on Nessian Hornbeetle. This is one of the only 4 or greater effects, like power 4 or greater matters effects, that I actually like. Because as a 2 mana 2/2, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with this. As a 2 mana 2/2 that can grow and continue to grow, even grow beyond the 4 power or greater creature you have on the board, is fantastic. Let's see, if you control another creature. So it doesn't read itself, but if you had like 2 Hornbeetles, which would be really nice, and they're uncommon, so it's not really all that hard to imagine in Limited, they could feed off each other once they both get to 4, or once one of them gets to 4, it's going to bring the other one up to 4, and beyond. And then they'll feed off each other that way. So yeah, like this is actually a great card. Super, super solid. You're going to pump your deck full of other creatures that have like 4 more power and just be able to trigger this effect on and on and on. And it demands an answer. A 2-mana card that demands an answer at some point is a great card. So great, will it see play in Standard? I think it could. It definitely could. Unfortunately, it doesn't read gods very well. So if you have Nylea or whatever, then it's not going to see it because they're doing enchantments at the time. But, boy. I mean, if you have this alongside, like, I don't know, just... It doesn't really play well with elementals, just because with elementals you want to do something else. But it could, you could see playing a mono green deck just with this and some other aggressive things that want to swing in there. I could see that working out. Maybe 1, maybe 2 of. But in Limited, it's fantastic. This is like your uncommon sleeper, not really a sleeper, because it's just obviously good. Alright, a 2 mana Nessian Wanderer. Oh, a little Satyr Scout. Looks like he's having a good time, hopping along the little constellation trail. Let's say 1/3 for 2, so... Not hating that, but not loving it either. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a land card, then put it into your hand with the rest of the bottom of your library in a random order. The fact that it's whenever is decent, but do you really want to fill your hand with a land? And the rest of them go on the bottom, so you're only able to pick up land cards. You may reveal a land, so you don't have to show the other 2 cards, which is kind of nice. At least you don't give up your whole deck to your opponent, but still... If the camera would focus a little more, that'd be great. There we go. I think that's a little better. Whatever. I'm not a fan of this card at all. I think there's better ramp out there. There already is better ramp out there. Are you kidding? Especially with the new Titan. Oh my goodness. Growth Spiral plus the Titan. If you really want to do things, run a Boreal Grazer. There's also District Guide still gets you a land or a gate to your hand. So this as a 2-mana 1/3 is not good. Unless you're nothing. This is a bad card. This is a bad card. All right. No limited, no standard, no nothing. All right. 3-mana 1/4. That's even worse. Nexus Wardens. Oh my god, Nexus of Fate. No, it's back. Oh, hide me. I'm kidding, it's not that. Alright, so it is a 1/4 with reach. No, I'm not impressed. Constellation, whatever an enchantment to the battlefield under your control, you gain 2 life. No, this card's terrible. Gaining life doesn't really matter too much. 1/4 with reach. You might stall out an opponent's flyer, but only has 1 power, so you're gonna bump heads, you're not actually gonna kill anything, so you're not stopping much. If they have a couple flyers, sure, they swing in, you block one of them, and the other ones get through. No, this is not good. And you're not going to be able to stall out long enough. The Constellation effect isn't really going to build up too much. So, no. Get out of here. Ooh, here we are. Hello, Nylea. Keen-eyed. Keen-eyed. It sounds like a funny word. I don't know why. So, 4-mana 5/6. She's a god, therefore indestructible. Same devotion to green has to be 5 or more, otherwise she's not a creature. Creature spells you control. I'm sorry, creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. And then for 3 mana, you can reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature, put it into your hand. Otherwise, put it into your graveyard. Otherwise, you may put it in the graveyard. You can keep it on top too. So, in Limited, all the gods are really good. They're not as good as they used to be. With the exception maybe of Heliod, because he costs 3 mana. And 3 mana is less than 4 mana. Literally, just he comes down earlier, so you can get more use of his effect. Let's see. Nylea coming down on 4. Making your creatures cost less is significant. The fact that you can also get other cards there. So she is very, very good. Hopefully you can survive till turn 4. That's all I'm saying here. I don't know if it's going to be a super, super aggressive limited. So I don't know if it's going to be really like a significant thing there. But using 4 mana to basically do nothing and try to ramp up basically for your next turn. Oh, that hurts a bit. But the inevitability, like if you just out of stalled board state, and you play this, which... Similar to Oketra, why doesn't this have reach? She has a bow. Historically, things with bows have reach. They shoot up. They don't just shoot straight. They shoot up. She's actually actively shooting in the upwards direction. Also, she's a freaking god, so I don't know. I mean, maybe all gods should have reach. Who knows? But anywho, just a little thing there. In Limited, yeah, absolutely, take it. She's a god. You run it. You try to get your devotion going, and a 4-mana 5/6 is incredible. And the fact that you might be able to have 5 devotion when she comes down turn 4 is relevant as well. And then you just play more creatures afterwards. Hell yeah. The fact that if you lose some creatures and you lose devotion, she actually helps you get some of that back, both by reducing the cost and seeing more cards at the top of your library and bidding creatures to your hand. She helps herself out. You know what? She's actually pretty damn good. And I never said she wasn't good. She's just better than I thought she was. And let's see, in Standard, the creatures costing 1 less probably doesn't really matter unless there's some crazy combo that you can get going off on turn 5. For 5 mana, rather. No. Turn 5 for 6 mana. You know, on curve. You understand what I'm saying. The turn after you play her, you better have a combo that basically wins the game. Otherwise, the creatures costing less doesn't really matter. And revealing the top card, we've seen that before on like Vivian's Grizzly or something like that, and that really wasn't relevant. The fact that you can put it in the graveyard is nice. So if you reveal like an escape card and you want it to go away, okay, sure, dump that card. You know, if there's anything that's relevant in the graveyard. But this is too slow for Standard play. Limited though, hell to the yeah. Alright, 5 mana, 5/3, Nylea's Forerunner. That, like I see, it's a beast, but what the hell kind of beast is that? It looks like some weird Oni kind of thing. Anyway, 5/3 Trampler. Other creatures you control have trample. So it's not a bad effect, but the fact that it's only just on a 5/3 body is fine. You can use it to push through a little bit of damage the turn you play it, but... Oh, the turn you play it, the turn after you play it, really, because it wants to attack. But beyond that, don't count on winning the game just because all your things have trample. I don't think it's really going to be that significant. It only helps you when your opponent's just chump blocking things, and at that point, you're already winning the game because they're chumping with like little things, unless they have that stupid satyr thing that just, the satyr sorcery with escape where they can just keep making 1/1s. Even then, they're going to run out at some point. It's not that good a card. So, yeah, I don't really see this as a huge thing. If it was like a 5/4, I'd say, yeah, definitely run it. It's a 5/3, but the fact that it's an enchantment actually could mean that it's worth a little more. Also, if it cost 2 green, if it gave you more devotion, that'd be a lot more valuable. But the sense that and the fact that it's only 1 devotion, there's probably better options. You probably have better options in your deck. In standard, no. I don't know, because there are other ways to give all your creatures trample. That isn't this thing. Alright, for 4 mana, you have a 4/3. Not horrible. Nylea's Huntmaster. When Nylea's Huntmaster enters the battlefield, target creature control gets +X/+0 until end of turn, or X is your devotion to green. So this is just a limited card. This is not standard playable at all, but let's see now. And this is also a win more card, which I don't really like. You get 1 attack out of the creature. Maybe it has trample, maybe it doesn't. And then you just swing out and like, okay, well, I'm going to block what the same creature's going to block with. It just blocks more damage now. Not great for the ability, but a 4 mana 4/3 is still playable. So solid middle of the road kind of limited card. And like I said, standard, it has no use. Nylea's Intervention. See, and also if you're thinking about, oh, well, this plus fling is going to be amazing, you could already fling with a Crawl Harpooner that had the like undergrowth or whatever the hell the thing's called, the ability. Yeah, you could already fling that thing. And no one does that, so where are you going with this thing? Anyway, Nylea's Intervention. Costs double green and X. You choose 1. I like all the creatures coming out here. You got like the Hydra in the background. You got like, looks like, is that a Chimera? Are they connected, or is it just like a, I don't know, some kind of like a ram? There's like some fox or something. I don't know. There's a lot of things going on. I like this. The artwork. So search your library for up to X land cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your library, or deals twice X damage to each creature with flying. So either kill all the flyers, which again could see some sideboard play in both standard or limited. In standard or in constructed, it'll see sideboard stuff basically against only Azorius flyers. I don't know why I said by the saying constructed because it's a standard deck. There's nothing really else that flies so much. The fact that it's not an instant means that you're not going to use this against Cavaliers of Flame or Cavaliers of Gales, so not really much going on there. And I don't really know how many valuable flyers there are in limited. Like, although I've reviewed them, and this is actually the last color I'm reviewing, I don't think there's too many, so that's not really going to be significant. So the first ability is where you're kind of hinging things on. Search your library for up to X land cards. The fact that it's just X land, doesn't say basic land, doesn't say forests, means it's got some extra utility there. You could use this if you feel that I wasn't banned. Is there any land that's really significant here? I mean, there's the Labyrinth of Scophos, but that doesn't really help you too much. You can use this to find... So if you're in mono green, you can use this to find Field of Ruins, and then use that against multicolored decks. Against any sort of things. You can use that to destroy Castle Lochthwains or Castle Vantresses, because those are pretty strong. Other than that, though, ramp that doesn't actually ramp you is pretty rough. You can use this with a very, very earlier on, like Druid or Dryad, whatever the thing is, that lets you play multiple lands a turn. Sure, that can refill your hand at that point, but really, why? I think the best case you're going to have with this is running this with Cavalier Flame, because you can do that. Say you're playing Fires, right? You play this thing, you have to tap out some stuff for X, right? You search a bunch of land, then you play Cavalier Flame, discard all those lands. Suddenly now when Cavalier Flame dies, it does like 5 or 6 damage, which is not something you can really ignore unless you're just going to win next turn regardless. So that's something. Aside from that, though, and just filtering out some more land, I don't really see it happening. I mean, if you want to get more land out of your deck, just run the Beanstalk Giant, run Teamer Adventures, and do that with Clover, because that pulls lands out of your deck like nothing else. So this is probably the least exciting intervention. Going from least exciting to this thing. Nyx Bloom Ancient, a 7 mana 5/5. Wow, that sounds bad. That has trample. Still sounds bad. If you tap permanent for mana, it produces 3 times as much as that mana instead. So that is... I don't know if that's an unheard of effect so far. So, you know, we have plenty of mana doublers in standard. Yeah, but we don't have mana triplers, do we? So 3 is very, very relevant. The unfortunate thing is that this costs 7 mana. Now, worth noting, it is not legendary, so you can absolutely have more of these on the board. And once you stick 1, it's a lot easier to play the second and the third and the... Oh god, if you have 4 of these. And you can make a giant Krasis or something that just goes crazy. But here's the thing. By the time you have 7 mana to play this, unless you sneak this out somehow, maybe you use Perforos, put this on the board, that same turn, you use all the extra mana you hopefully have to play some bigger creatures, to play a giant Krasis, to play another one of these, whatever, then this thing dies. That's the only case you could really see this being valuable. waiting until you have 7 mana to actually play this regularly, and then having to untap with it. If you untap with it, you should win. If you don't have any payoff card in your hand to really make use of that mana, what are you doing? And you can also run this in like blue-green and like some kind of Simic thing, and not Simic counter spells, just like Simic, you know, blue for the card draw, basically. And that could be something, but other than that, it's just too slow for what it does. It does a lot, and I feel like at 6 mana, it would probably be busted, but at 7 mana, it is just too slow. In limited now, what do we think about a 7 mana 5/5 trample? We hate it. We hate it. You can fuel your interventions, they have X in the cost. Yeah. Still hate it though. And let's see. What else beyond that? Not too much. Worth noting, this plus Nissa does not produce 6 mana with each land. It produces 4. 5? 4. No. Because when you tap it, it produces 3 times that much mana instead. So you tap a forest, it produces 3 green instead of just 1 green. And then Nissa says whenever you tap a forest, add an additional green. Her ability is giving you the green. So you create 3 with this thing, and then Nissa attacks on 1. This is always going to attack on 1. You're never going to multiply that ability. So there's that. Alright, we have a 6 mana 6/7 Nyxborn Colossus. This is an enchantment creature. This is 6/7. Tree tall giants confronted her, fiercely demanding her tribute. Fox cunning, Caliphy's slippery speaking entangled their senses. That's a very, very strange thing to read. That's a very, very strange sentence there that I don't know what I just read. Okay, but anyway, so 6 mana for a 6/7 enchantment creature. Is this thing better than this thing? In limited, yeah, it is. I would rather have this thing. This is just a common card too. When you open this thing as a mythic, you're gonna feel like your alarm just went off and it interrupted your video. That's how bad you're gonna feel. But otherwise, this guy's fine. Like, as a top-end card for a limited thing, absolutely. Go ahead, run this guy. I mean, when you just throw a bunch of dinos in your deck, giants, you don't really feel too bad. In standard 0 play, the only play you could actually potentially see ever, which it won't, is the fact that it's a giant, so it's Realm Cloak giant, they can't kill it. Or you can't, you're not going to kill it, so it's going to survive that board wipe, but otherwise it's useless. But yes, limited, go ahead, run it. Run it instead of this. Don't run both, just run this guy. Alrighty. 3 mana Nyx Herald. 3 mana 2/3 enchantment creature. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target enchanted creature or enchantment creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains trample at the end of the turn. That's nice. The fact that it actually can target itself is very nice here, because there's so many of these effects that can't work. Target other creature you control, or target this or other enchantment. Come on, just, you already exist, just work. So the fact that it can actually boost itself a little bit is very nice. It means that in combat, it's basically a 3/4 for 3, which is very, very nice. It has trample also. Hell yeah, that's a great card. The only downside is that during your opponent's turn, it's still a 2/2. But yeah, this card's great. Are you kidding? And limited? Hell yeah. Run this card, and it just boosts your other cards. Just be careful where you put the +1/+1. You know, there's only one creature, so choose well. But yeah, it's a fantastic thing. But that being said, it's not a 5 out of 5 or anything like that. It's like a 3.5 out of 5. It's better than your average, like 3 mana 3/3. And the fact that it gives you trample is really what helps, but don't hedge all your bets on this thing. You still need a card that wins you the game. A game that wins you the card. Yeah, right? But this is definitely gonna help you get there. Standard, nope. Alright, Omen of the Hunt. Here we go. We have the green Omen. 3 mana flash. When Omen of the Hunt enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. So, what we need to ask ourselves is 3 mana ramp good? The fact that it enters the battlefield tapped is a little annoying, but it has flash, so you can play during your opponent's turn. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Like, the thing that made Growth Spiral really good was that it costs 2 mana, it drew you a card, and then you happen to have a land, you get to play it. So, there was that. But this thing, it gets a land out, but it's not going to see any play in standard because all of our mana ramp is on 2 mana. We either have 2 mana, 2 cost mana dorks, Growth Spiral, or even, what's his name, like Oro or whatever, the Titan, the Elder Giant, you know, that's in blue-green. That does cost 3 mana, however, it also gains you life and draws you a card, and it does a better ability than this thing. So this is probably the least impactful Omen as well. So go ahead, I'm going to say it. Worst intervention, worst Omen. I guess that's where they kind of cut back on green. But then they have a few other cards that are just like stupid. The freaking 1 mana enchantment to the bottom of the deck is just, why did you have to print that, Wizards? Why? Why is that so good? Yeah, so I wouldn't bother with this thing in limited. I don't think you really want that mana ramp so badly. For 3 mana, it's a little expensive. And in standard, nope. Only if you open Nightlia and you're trying to get Devotion, I would consider this. Otherwise, no. Alright, what the heck is this name? 6 mana, 4/4, that's a horrible stat line. Theros Band Brawler. I'm just gonna say Theros, whatever. When it enters the battlefield, it fights up to one target creature you don't control. So it's just like an Affectionate Indrik. Although I believe Affectionate Indrik had the same stats for 5 mana. This has the same stats for 4 mana. For 6 mana. I could be wrong. It's not good. For 6 mana, you're not going to be killing all that many things that are worth killing. Yeah, I'm going to kill your good old 3/2 that you played 2 turns ago. Or 3 turns ago, whatever. Like, it's okay. You picked off the little thing that they had sitting around for a while for no reason. Yeah, surprise, I guess. I mean, oh god, this is not actually a good card. There are better options for green removal. If you really want to kill a lot of things, find some black, find some red, put it in your deck. Maybe find some blue and try to bounce things or whatever. I don't actually have a card specifically in mind, but still, find some other ways to get around things. This is not your answer. This is very, very, very limited. It's limited, playable, unlimited. It's not very good. Plummet, just a reprint. You know, we've had this plenty of times. Nothing wrong with printing it here. Although I usually see it in like core sets, so the fact that it's not in a core set kind of hurts a little bit. Because core sets are usually a little toned down. Like, okay, here you go. This is very beginner friendly. Whereas usually the regular sets are like, hey, we're going to explore this you know, this another mechanic and something. And we're going to try to go to this area, tell them more of a story. So I feel like they could have waited on reprinting this thing. 2 mana, short target creature with flying. We've had it before, we have it again, here it is. If your opponent has a lot of flyers, sure, go ahead. You could see this in a sideboard in a standard deck, but I feel like there's just better options. I'd rather have, whatchamacallit, the Crawl Harpooner. It probably does the same thing, except it can also just be played as a 3/2. So there's that. In limited, sure, if your opponent has a lot of flyers, go for it. Otherwise, don't. Just don't. But if they have like that 4 mana freaking Archon of whatever in white that makes Pegasus tokens, you're going to want an answer. And even if they only have one of them, it might be worth playing this just because that card runs away with the game very, very quickly. Alright, for 3 mana, Relentless Pursuit. Say sorcery, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You may put a creature card and or a land card from among them into your hand. Put the rest in your graveyard. The only thing that saves this from being useless, because for 3 mana, it's pretty bad on rate. If it costs 2 mana, then I can say, yeah, go ahead and run with it. But on 3 mana, the fact that it can get a creature and a land is good. 3 mana, draw 2 is not bad at all. And the rest go into your graveyard. You can kind of pick a few things. And it's May, obviously, so you can put things in the graveyard if they have escape if you don't want to do too much with them. So this is good and limited because it's 1 mana. It's a 1 card that should get you 2 cards. The fact that the other one's a land, though, means it's not really much of a card, but kind of like a pseudo ramp spell, which is still fine. This is fine and limited. I would definitely run this. It's not as good as Growth Spiral was. Don't convince yourself it was. It is. But plus Growth Spiral is an instant speed thing. Like, come on, that's so good. But I don't really have to sing the praises of Growth Spiral. This is fine, though. And limited, I would definitely play 1, maybe even 2 of these. I wouldn't play 3, because then you're going to run into more of these things. It doesn't work with sorceries, so, you know, consider that. In standard, no, there are just better options. But in limited, it's fine. Yeah, run 1 or 2. Calyx is in the background, which means it's not that good, but it's Calyx. She was patient, steadily following Elspeth until her destined confrontation. Oh yeah, so the story here, by the way, is just that Klothys, the new green-red god, creates Calyx to try to track down Elspeth, because Klothys couldn't planeswalk, and Elspeth could. Because Klothys isn't a planeswalker, she's tied to Theros as the god. So she makes Calyx, who can chase Elspeth across the plains. So, there you go. If Elspeth is a good guy, Calyx is one of the bad guys. If not, whatever. Alright, what do we have here now? The demigod, here we go. Renata, called to the hunt. And you have to pay 4 mana to call her to the hunt for a star 3. The power is equal to devotion to green. So at the very least, it's a 4 mana 2/3. Which is very, very bad. Each other creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1 counter on it. So, not a great effect there. The fact that it costs 4 mana and you don't get much going with it is really, really pretty bad. It only has 3 toughness. I could have seen this being like a 4 mana 3 with a star, and it just gets hardier as the game goes on. It gets better toughness, and that would be significant. That would be much better. The fact that you're kind of setting this aggressively, even though you're giving some counters to your creatures, which is somewhat of an aggressive thing. It's not really aggressive versus defensive, it's just a good thing. In limited, this is fine if you have like a decent amount of like little things or things that cost more than 4, but you're really gonna feel really bad when you hold on to this thing, when you hold on to little creatures in your hand, because oh, if I can, get this down first and then untap, now they're 2/2s, so they're 2/3s instead of weak things, and then your opponent kills it. Like, well, I didn't play this last turn because I wanted to get her first, but now, okay, I guess I'm just gonna play these off tempo, and it feels really bad. So definitely wouldn't hold on to this. Hold on to other creatures in your hand to try to get more value. And in standard, this is useless, but in limited, you can see a little bit of play, just because it can buff a few things. But even then, I actively wouldn't run this over a few other cards. What are the cards? I don't know. If I had a option for a 3-mana 3/3, the one that untaps things, I would run that instead of this, because it's cheaper. It can untap something, and it actually always has 3 power instead of this, which might not. And it comes down to turn early, All right, Return to Nature is a very, very quick reprint. Just your standard, pretty good green enchantment artifact, whatever removal. You can exile cards in the graveyard, which actually is significant now. Previously, the only significant part of that was you can potentially exile a cat from the graveyard if your opponent didn't have food on the board. But now that there's escape things, it's got more utility. So yeah, definitely, I would run this. The fact that it destroys an enchantment and there's enchantment creatures means that you could absolutely mainboard this thing in limited. In standard, it's still, you might see one of them on the main board, but it's still pretty much decidedly a sideboard card, depending on how much these, enchantment creatures really take off, or if Jund is still just so prevalent that it goes crazy. Obviously, you can't destroy gods, and nothing really can. They're destructible. Just putting that out there, but still a very, very solid card. I like seeing this again. What do we have here? Citizen Champion. Ah, a 3-mana 1/3. Well, that sounds abysmal. Constellation, whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on this, and you draw a card. Okay, so the fact that it gets you to draw a card is good. Can you really afford to play a 3-mana 1/3, basically pass the turn? That hurts a lot, but as soon as you untap with this thing and you have one payoff card, it's worth it. A 3-mana, would you play a 3-mana 2/3, draw a card? Yes, I think I would play that pretty much every day. In limited, it's a little rough. People are playing this in standard though and making things go crazy with it. So again, I'm recording this a little bit later than I would like to. I wish I had this before everything went live. Oh well, that's my life. But do not underestimate this card by any means. Do not leave this thing on the board if you can afford to kill it. If there's some way that you can just remove this thing very cheaply without, your opponent having a giant next to it that's like, well, I can remove this, but then that kills me, then go ahead and kill it, because that is a significant card to remove. Even if they only have like 2 or 3 enchantments to go off of it, it's still fantastic. All right, a 3-mana Citizen Petitioner. Oh no, Petitioners, although it doesn't have the Petitioner, actually no, they're advisors, right? It doesn't have the advisor type, so it doesn't work with persistent petitioners. Okay. Very, very slight thing doesn't actually work there. Inconsistency. Damn. Alright, when it enters the battlefield, you gain life equal to your devotion to green. 3-mana 2/2. Yeah, don't play this. Just don't play this card. If you're looking for life gain in standard, run black or run white. Don't run this. Green tends to have life gain every now and then, which makes sense because it's nature. Okay, it makes sense that you can get some life from, the trees and from the plants and everything. Flavor-wise, it makes sense. However, gameplay-wise, it's useless. Yeah. That's about it. Let's see, where do we go from there? Citizen Skirmisher, a 2-mana 2/1. Not excited. And whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, it gets +1/+1 till end of turn. Yeah, still not great. If it had, if it got +1/+1 in first strike, maybe. If it already had first strike and it just kept going, then I can actually see this seeing some play. In limited, it's dead though. As it stands right now, it's just useless. You could flash in an Omen or any number of flash auras and something gets a little buff there, but largely the buff from the flash aura should be enough. The extra +1/+1 shouldn't really be significant, so it's just not a good card here. Citizen Training. Jeez, these citizens are really not well. Okay, the champion's good, but that's why that's the champion. The other one's kind of lackluster. Let's see what the training does. 2-mana aura, enchant things you control. When enter the battlefield, draw a card, and the creature gets +1/+0 and has trample. Okay, this isn't too bad. The fact that It's an aura, but it draws you a card when it enters the battlefield, means that you're already going to be even when your opponent kills a creature you have. Or when the creature dies. This is on. If the creature this is on never dies, you're probably winning the game. Just saying, you know, usually. Anyhow, so that is nice. 2 mana, draw a card is okay. And the upside, because people were running Revitalize in the past, and people still run Growth Spiral, which is 2 mana, draw a card, plus, you know, ramp a little bit, which is actually great. Enchanted creature gets +1 zone has trample. So is that relevant? Not entirely. But I can still see running 1 or 2 of these just to kind of help keep you to survive a little bit longer. Again, you want to do this if you have... I would run 2 of this if I had a decided win condition, where if I drew this card, or these combination of cards, I would overwhelm my opponent, win the game. I would only run 1 of these if I didn't have this sort of thing that I was trying to find. Standard, nope. I mean, there are a few things that bring enchantments back in the graveyard, therefore you could tie this into that and have it be an extra card draw with it. But if you're trying to draw cards that way, just play a card that draws cards. There are ways to do that. Alright, we have Skola Grove Dancer. No idea. I guess Skola is the name of this person? Are you Skola? Or is the Skola a certain type of satyrs that we just haven't really addressed yet? I don't know. 2 mana, 2/2 enchantment creature. That's great. It's fantastic. What else do you do? Whenever a land is put into your graveyard from anywhere, you gain 1 life. Not very likely to happen, but there are plenty of things that put cards from the top of your deck into the graveyard or whatever, so it works that way too. Because it says from anywhere, not necessarily from the board. So if you discard 1, if you surveil some, if you get them in there, anywhere. Incidental life gain is fine. You can pay 3 mana, put the top card of the library into the graveyard. That effect really isn't worth it. If you're trying to hope that that thing mills you a land so you can gain some life, you're losing the game pretty badly. But aside from that, it's okay and limited. This isn't like a super crazy bomb. Yeah, it's a 2 mana 2/2. It's just a bear. That's an enchantment. If you have enough constellation effects, if you have the set as a champion, yeah, I would run pretty much every single copy of this that I have, because worst case is a 2 mana 2/2. But that aside, yeah, it's fine. If you don't have anything that really pays off with enchantments, it's still decent, but I would only run maybe 1 or 2 of these things in that case. If you have things that, like, reliable constellation benefits, then I would run a few more. In Standard, I wouldn't run any. I would run a whole lot of 0. Alright, the Binding of the Titans. Here we go, I guess. Are those the 2 Titans? Because we only have 2 in this set. Maybe we're going to have more in the next set. Ikoria, is that what it's called? But anywho. Oh, and is that? That's definitely Clothis, yeah. Cool. Alright, anyway. So, 2 mana saga. Chapter 1. Each player puts 3 cards, the top 3 cards from their library into the graveyard. So, Chapter 1, mill 3. For 2 mana, doesn't really do a whole lot, but it's only 2 mana, so I can live with that. If it was like 5 mana, goddamn, you just wasted 5 mana. Alright, anyway. So for 2 mana, mill 3, fine. Chapter 2. Exile up to 2 target cards from graveyards. For each creature card exiled this way, you gain 1 life. Yeah, sure. I mean, it helps combat the fact that it's a symmetrical effect in a format where things going to the graveyard isn't really bad, so yeah, benefit there. I can see you playing this, hopefully, like maybe later on in the game, trying to hit a few certain cards in the graveyard, then you accidentally mill some more. It's like, well, at least I exiled the ones that I milled, and it's not really anything lost. I get some life, maybe. So I can see that working out. And the third one, return target creature or land card from your graveyard to your hand. So whatever you mill, if you milled something bad, you can put it back to your hand. Yeah, this is a solid card in Limited, absolutely. In Standard, people are even playing this a little bit too. This is not, like, you know, decided main board escape, like, counters, because it only exiles those 2 things. And you're not really going to want to run this too many copies of it, unless you're doing unless you're focusing on your own escape things, or unless there's just some certain creature or land that you really want to dig towards, and Tameo costs too much for you to play, or you're not running any blue, because Tameo does a very similar effect. And the fact that it gains your life is actually pretty nice too. So yeah, I actually like this card quite a bit. I think it is worth seeing some Standard play in Limited. Hell yeah, this is actually much better than it seems at first, because you can use it to get another creature, not necessarily one that you milled, but like, you know, say you had your big thing, they played their kill spell, okay, Binding the Titans, a couple turns, I'm gonna get it back. Until then, you mill some cards, I exile some things, gain some life. Yeah, this isn't gonna, like, save the game at the end of the day, because it's 2 turns of effectively doing nothing. So hopefully you have something else to kind of stall out your opponent, but yeah, you could definitely have this and threaten it. Threaten to bring back your biggest threat. Hell yeah. Or bring back that land you need. Alright, the first Iroan Games. Let's see, it costs 3 mana for another saga, with 4 chapters this time. Chapter 1. Create a 1/1 white human. I'm not going to bother anymore. Human soldier creature token. Alright, so 3 mana make a 1/1. That's horrible. That is possibly the worst rate ever. Hopefully we get better. Chapter 2. Put 3 +1/+1 counters. I just kind of blur those words together. +1/+1. Put 3 +1/+1 counters on target creature you control. Okay, so turn 3, make a 1/1, really bad. Turn 4, you buff something 3/3 for, you know, with counters on it. That's still pretty bad. Like basically 4 mana, play a 3/3 with haste. Okay, but not good. Chapter 3, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw 2 cards. Okay, that's good. That's definitely good. Chapter 4, create a gold token. And for those that don't know, gold is just like a treasure token. It's just a little artifact token. Tap it, sacrifice it, and you have to tap it or you just sacrifice it? I don't know. Sacrifice it, and you make 1 mana of any color. That's what gold is. So, geez, I mean, the first ability is garbage. It just makes it so that if you only have this thing, it creates the situation. How do I say this? If this is the only card you have and you play it, then if it fills its own requirements, right? But aside from that, Jesus Christ, this is actually really, really bad. I mean, for 3 mana, it doesn't actually pay off until you hit the 3rd chapter. The 4th chapter, being a gold token, is largely useless. It'll find some use somewhere, and someone's gonna be like, yeah, good thing I have that 1 mana, haha, you're wrong. Like, okay, sure, whatever you got there. But, geez, so we pay something 3, 4, 5. Turn 5, you draw an extra 2 cards. And the thing is, your opponent knows it's coming, so they might be able to just use their kill spell on whatever strong creature you have, if you only have 1. Which you probably only have 1, because you spent your 3 mana turn to make a 1/1. Granted, you don't really have a whole lot of 3 mana things that are 4 or greater anyway. So, if your goal is only to draw cards, sure. Again, if you have a dedicated win con, this can get you there, because it draws you cards. But if you're going to play this to try to get advantage on the board, I wouldn't do that at all. I think this is just a bad card for that. In Standard, I don't think it's going to see any play. I don't think it's worth it at all. In Limited, you can see a little bit of play. The fact that it might be harder to remove this thing is okay, but if this thing just dies after you make a 1/1, then you're feeling pretty hurt. Okay, what else do we have here? Voracious Typhoon. Typhoon? There's only one. Oh, it's actually Typhon. Okay. There was a... What was it? Like a Titan? Typhon or Typhoon, whatever, in Greek mythology. It was like incredibly ugly, and I'm not even talking like, well, you shouldn't say that about it. No, like lore wise, it was like the ugliest creature in the world. I don't know why, it was, and then something dark side. Okay, anywho, 4 mana 4/4. Okay, escape for 7, exile 4 of the cards. It escapes with 3 +1 counters on it. So it's a 4 mana 4/4 or 7 mana 7/7. That's fine. I still reliably run the Chimera that comes out as like a 5/2 for, what is it, for 5, I think? I think that's a much better rate than the 7 mana 7/7, because it's going to take so much longer to keep playing this, and this is going to be the only play you make each turn. At least for 5 mana, you can play that, plus like a little, like, you know, 2-drop or something. With this just being the one thing, and it doesn't have trample or anything built into it, it's a little rough. But still, there's nothing wrong with it. As a, you know, Standard, obviously 0 play, but in Limited, yeah, you can run one of these. Maybe even 2 of these, because you can play one of them early, one of them later. Hell yeah. Just don't count on having both of them escape at the same time, because that's a lot of cards. They are exiling, a lot of money you're paying, probably not going to get too much off of it. Okay. Typhon's escape from the underworld makes armies flee and kingdoms fall. Sure it does. Sure it does. Alright. Warbriar Blessing. A 2 mana enchantment aura on a creature you control. When it enters the battlefield, an enchanted creature fights up to 1 target creature you don't control, and enchanted creature gets +0/+2. So a 2 mana fight effect where your creature probably survives. The thing I don't like here is that if it was like +1/+2, I could see that and be like, okay, yeah, that could see some play. But +0/+2, you might be able to win the fight with that. Otherwise, it's just kind of useless. Otherwise, you pick up something largely inconsequential that was going to die anyway. And the lingering +0/+2 isn't really worth much at all. So unless you have the Citizen Champion, you know, the thing that where you play more things and draw cards, or the ones where you want to target them with an ability, and then it buffs all your dudes, which they are really not that great as well. I really wouldn't run this card at all. You're trying to get Devotion, maybe, but it doesn't actually protect your creature very much. No, this is a bad card. And let's see, are we almost there? Oh, last one, yes! Wolf Below Haven, a 2-mana aura, which I believe I've actually seen play in Standard. Enchant a land. Whenever enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional green mana in particular. This is not Gift of Paradise where it makes double of whatever mana. It specifically adds 1 green. And you can pay 5 and sacrifice this enchantment. Create a 2/2 green wolf token. Sure. Activate only during your turn. So I guess it's fair. Like once you reach enough mana, you can just turn it into a creature. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that at all. The fact that it's 2 mana ramp in the form of not a creature, so it survives board wipes, is actually pretty significant. Oh, but it doesn't survive planar cleansing because it's a permanent. Okay, fine. You know what? You got me. But aside from that, yeah, this is fine. This will see a little bit of standard play. Gift of Paradise didn't really see too much play, but I think they cost 3. Even if it didn't cost 3, it only cost 2. It didn't really do a whole lot. The fact that it can turn itself into a wolf later on is fine. I don't really see that being much of a... I don't know... much of a draw for it, I guess. It's not really a thing that pulls you towards it, like, yeah, that's why I'm going to play this card. You play it because it ramps you. And other than that, it's fine. The question is, would you rather just put like a 2/1 on the board and add some potential tempo there that could die later on? Probably not, but with the amount of enchantment hate that's going to be in the set, this could potentially, you know, also get blown up, so... ugh. In Limited. It's decent, because... you potentially have a 2-mana 2/2 later on in the game. I know you have to pay 5, you're paying 2 for it now, but I wouldn't really... I would play this as like maybe the last card or 2 you put in there. It's like, well, I can put this ugly creature in here that doesn't really do anything, or I can do some kind of ramp and kind of, you know, go from there. It's worth noting that if you are running 2 colors, you can put this on like, you know, a mountain if you're running Gruul, basically. And it gives you that in green, so it still helps you with green spells. So that's nice there. Not great in Limited. I'd say like middle of the line, solid, like, you know, 2.5 out of 5. In Standard, it's seeing some play, but I think it's going to fade away. I don't think this is really here to stay. People are just experimenting with it. I think they're going to find that it's really not that worth it. And if I'm wrong, then then I'm on board for that. Hey, it's an uncommon card. I can craft as many of those as I want. Anywho, that brings us back to the lovely spider, which isn't that great, but I still love spiders. So thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. If you have a different opinion, if you don't agree, if you want to let me know how you feel, please let me know in the comments down below. If not, then hopefully you enjoyed what I had to say. Hopefully some of it was valuable. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? But yeah, feel free to check me out on Twitch. I'm on twitch.tv/bubblehearthing. I try to stream 3 days a week at least. I might even do some more now because the new set's coming out. The new set is out on MTG Arena. And otherwise, good night or good morning, depending on what time it is for you. But as always, good luck.